I love movies, and because I love movies, my favorite way of consuming movies is going to the movie theater. And while normally I'm somebody who is often analyzing, reviewing film as an art form, whether what works about it or what doesn't, I'm not usually thinking of the movie theaters themselves when it comes to factoring in the experience. And I figured it would be fun if that's what this video was about. So this video is going to be a review of an actual movie theater. I'm not going to be reviewing the movie that I saw. Full disclosure, the movie that I saw was The Surfer, starring Nick Cage. It is going to be more so how this venue works, what doesn't work about it, things that I enjoyed, things that I think could be improved upon, just kind of detailing my overall experience with the establishment and then coming to a rating at the end of the video. How this is going to work is I'm just going to walk through my experience with this specific movie theater. At the end of this video, I'm going to give a letter grade. Now, normally with movies, my rating system ranges from 1 to 10 out of 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, but I figured with an actual business that offers a service, I will grade it on a letter scale. I feel like that'll better reflect my overall experience with this as a business as opposed to grading something that is a form of art. And the theater I am going to be reviewing today is the Cinema Carousel by Studio C.
Hi everybody, I'm JD Lokes, president of Celebration Cinema, here with my good friend Flick the Movie Kid. How are you, Flick?
Kiss my ass, brotherfucker.
Before we get into the review, I just want to go over 3 hard set rules that I've given myself when it comes to reviewing a movie theater. Rule number 1, I will not film or take pictures during the actual movie itself. You'll see throughout this video that I've taken some photos or videos of certain parts of the actual building, of the establishment, but I did not take any pictures or video during the film itself. I will take a video or picture before the movie starts or after the movie ends when the lights are on and nobody is being disturbed by me documenting things around me. But during the actual movie itself, I am more respectful than that. Rule number 2, and there's a reason why I made this rule number 2, is I will not film or take video of any kind inside of the bathroom. I will document my experience with the bathrooms, taking into consideration both the time I was there to review this place and also the previous times that I've used the bathrooms at the Cinema Carousel. But absolutely no pictures or video of the inside of the bathrooms were ever taken. I feel like I have to make that very clear, and that is a rule that I am going to abide by just out of respectability. And rule number 3, and this wasn't an issue that I ran into while I was there. Nobody seemed to mind that I was filming or taking pictures. But rule number 3 for me is if a manager or employee comes up to me and says, hey, can you not film or take pictures, then I will absolutely respect their wishes and I will put my phone away and just note the experience down from memory. Does that mean I'm going to discard any photo or video I had taken previously before they asked me? No. But I am going to conduct myself in a way that they would prefer that I conduct myself on their private property. Because contrary to what a lot of people would like to think, despite a business being publicly accessible, it still is a private territory that is owned by a company or a specific person. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the parking lot itself is pretty big. It is a fairly wide open space that almost feels kind of liminal, especially when you're there at night. And the many times I've been to this movie theater, I've always been in awe of just how vast expanding this flat space of asphalt and lampposts are. You could say that it's almost too much space for a venue like this, especially when it's not a super busy location most of the time. But given that I've been to a lot of other different establishments that I've had issues with parking in the past, I like the fact that I never have to worry about that when it comes to going to the Cinema Carousel. It's always easy for me to find a spot, even on the busiest nights. I don't have to walk that far, and I always feel relatively safe walking from the business to my car at the end of a showing, even if it's at nighttime. The building itself is pretty interesting. There's not too much to note other than the circular window patterns that surround the carousel itself that's on the inside, which I will talk about later, and the glowing cinema carousel sign that is outside of the building itself, very prominent to the front. You've also got Elsa's frozen yogurt, which I admittedly did not get to try on this review experience, and I haven't ever tried it because when I'm at the movie theater, I'm not usually thinking to myself, oh, I need to get frozen yogurt. I like that it offers it. I like frozen yogurt. I like putting a shit ton of toppings on it, but maybe that'll be an addendum for a future anecdote. But for right now, I'm not factoring Elsa's yogurt into the experience, so I'm just letting you guys know up front. I did get a pizza and a soft drink, which that'll be its own section. But regardless, I like how the logo incorporates the horse on the carousel in the lettering of the actual structure itself. I think that that's pretty neat and adds a little bit of character to an otherwise pretty flat and uninteresting building structure. I do like that there is a large marquee outside of the building close to the road so that whoever's driving by can see what prominent movies are playing. Unfortunately, the movie that I was seeing that day that I went, The Surfer, was not on the marquee. It used to be, but they had taken it off, presumably because it was a smaller movie and other movies were coming in on a Friday to take up that space. So we are here to see The Surfer, starring Nick Cage, and it is noticeably absent from the marquee. It used to be, I think, around here. It was listed. It was never going to be like the big title like Thunderbolts is right now, but it is playing today. We're gonna go see it today, but it is telling how fast these types of movies, especially smaller movies that come out, just come and go from the board. But it's always fun to see what is on the marquee whenever I pull up, because it does remind me sometimes that movies are coming out that maybe I had forgotten their release day, or, you know, reminds me of like, oh, this movie's still playing? I have to go check it out before it leaves the theater. I do think that that is a very nice touch, and it's been around for a long time. One more thing I want to note before we get to the actual inside of the building is that there is a placard on the outside that reads something to the effect of starting October 2021, they will no longer permit anybody who is 15 years or younger to enter the premises past 5 p.m. without adult accompaniment or supervision. I do like this as a rule. I think that when it comes to a movie-going experience, being able to enjoy it with minimal interruptions by kids and young people is very ideal, at least for me. And even if you are a young person, it's an easy remedy, because then all you have to do is find someone old enough to go in the movie theater with you and, you know, buy your ticket or whatever. It just shows me that this business is actually concerned with people's viewing experience when it comes to interruptions or lack of interruptions, so I do appreciate that on a grander scale. So now we're going into the actual inside of the building itself. Exciting. When you first walk in, it is a nice, spacious, open environment. It's not too claustrophobic feeling, even on the busiest nights. The day that I went was pretty empty. It was frankly kind of dead when I went inside, and until I waited a few minutes after I had gotten my pizza ordered and my drink filled, I don't think I had noticed a single other customer. There were plenty of employees kind of standing around chit-chatting, but not really gonna fault them for not being super engaging, because most of them I think are custodial, and they were just kind of chatting while they were waiting for movie runs to be done, presumably. When you first walk in, you've got a set of arcade games and machines that I don't think I've really ever seen anybody play, and I didn't really care to try it myself. I'm sure they're fun for like little kids when they're, you know, waiting for a showtime to start, or if the night is winding down after they'd seen a movie and they can let their parents chit chat and discuss the film while they go and shoot fucking aliens or whatever the hell, try to get the big Donkey Kong that's in the machine. But they're just kind of shoved off to the side, and I feel like they used to be in a more prominent place in that you would first walk in and it felt more of like a space filler, whereas now it just kind of feels like they're embarrassed to have an arcade section. And frankly, I kind of understand why, because nobody really uses it, at least that I've seen in a long time. I feel like it would be better served if they just got rid of that and added like maybe a lounge area or somewhere where you could relax a little bit more. They do have a lounge sitting area that I feel like is not as comfortable as it used to be, but I'll get to that later. You've got two prominent tables that check you in, although one of them is never really used. I feel like the last 10 years that I've been to this theater, only one of the tables has been used, and it's only ever been like one line, even on really busy nights, which is never a big deal because they usually get you through pretty quickly, but it's an interesting kind of idea that they have two separate tables that one of them just doesn't really do anything. For the most part, it kind of acts as a barrier for if people try to sneak in, despite the fact that anybody could probably just walk in and nobody would come up and say anything. I do like how they have the concession stand set up. I'm not a huge fan of the way the line is, because even if nobody is there, they still have the ropes up typically, and you'd think you'd want to like maybe streamline that for people who are unsure of like, can I just like go to the front if nobody's here, or do I still have to go through the whole shebang of going through the ropes, you know? But the actual counter itself and the way it's set up has been like that for a while, and I am a fan of the like more rounded kind of countertop setup that they have with the popcorn machines and the slushies. I'm not a huge fan of their screen menus, because screen menus, they will cycle through different items that they have, and if I want to see all the options at once, then it's a little bit difficult for me to get an idea of everything that this place served. I was actually doubting myself whether or not this place did serve pizza, even though I had seen it before, because it wasn't on the menu immediately. I had to wait for it to cycle through. And of course, one of the workers gave me a sheet of all of their items, which I feel like you shouldn't have to do that if I'm at the counter looking at the big screens in front of me to see what kind of food they have to offer. You've also got the signature carousel itself. It was not running at the time that I was there. Not too surprising, it wasn't very busy, but I have seen it being used by children before, and it seems like a fairly straightforward carousel ride. I find it interesting that this specific place, as far as I'm aware, is the only movie theater of this specific chain that has that as a gimmick. It's been like that since I was a kid. I don't know if any other places were a cinema carousel or if this is just the only one that's ever been in existence. But regardless, I do think that it is a quaint little thing that they can use as an identifier and as a branding marketing tool. They don't do a whole lot with it in terms of marketing, but it is nice that, you know, they haven't ripped it out completely in order to put like lame minimalist junk shit there. You've also got Elsa's frozen yogurt, which is right next to it. Again, I didn't go inside. I didn't try any of the yogurt. I kind of wish I did, just to get like the full comprehensive experience, but maybe that'll be another time that I can talk about in a different form. Next, you have the lobby layout, which is a fairly comfortable enough lobby setting for if you're there a little bit too early and you're waiting for a buddy, or if you know, just get out of a theater and you want to chill before you get to your car. And I feel like they used to have actual furniture with other TV screens playing different movies that may have come out at DVD at some point. And that's simply not the case anymore. They've got just these high top tables and chairs with these kind of inexplicably placed plants that act as almost a barrier from the rest of the theater to the lobby area, which is kind of interesting. Again, kind of like the arcade, it just sort of feels like they're shoving it away in an effort to kind of section it off as it being its own thing, when it just sort of feels like they're embarrassed to have it. And again, not many people use that space. Anytime I'm here and it's busy, that section even isn't touched much at all. Nobody's really using that space to eat their food or gather after a movie is done. That usually takes place outside the bathroom area that's near the exit towards the front. And then finally, you've got the actual theater sections itself. You've got sections 1 through 10, which act as the primary movie theater going experience. They've got the bigger theaters in that section. Theaters 1 and 10 specifically are the largest in the actual theater, I believe. And then you've got sections 12 through 17, which are more of the smaller movies that are kind of like leaving the theater, are going to be played in this section. What the hell happened to Theater 11? Did they take it out back and old yeller its ass? I don't know. The theater that I saw the movie in was in Theater 2, so I got some footage of that specific hall. Movie theaters 12 through 17, like I said, are the smaller ones. That's interesting because on the left side are all of the theaters in a line, and on the right side is the outside of the building. There's just windows and doors that can take you to the outside parking lot towards the side of the building if you're parked over that way. So my main criticism with the way that these theater layouts are set up is mostly where the bathrooms are in relation to the actual movie theaters themselves. I had to go to the bathroom twice because I ended up getting a soft drink because I wanted to be comprehensive enough to tell you guys about the experience with the food, and I ended up having to go a couple times, and that was a real pain because I was right smack dab in the middle of the hall, and there are no bathrooms in that actual section. You have to go back out to the theater lobby if you want to use a bathroom that's close enough in that section, which it takes you like probably like a minute and a half if you're fast walking from all the way down into theaters 5 and 6. And you have to make it so that you go to the bathroom and everything's okay, but you also are knowing that you're missing parts of the movie. And I feel like in order to cut that back a bit, they should have bathrooms in the middle of those sections. At least somewhere incorporated, because it is a long walk to go about your business if you really have to, and it's just not ideal for that type of experience. I've been to plenty of movie theaters before where, you know, I've been in the middle of a theater aisle and the bathroom is right there, and it's so convenient, it's so nice. I don't have to worry about missing as much of the movie as I did this last time I was at the cinema Carousel, and it really just goes to show that there is a way to do this that would be better. Still though, it's a nice open space. I like that they haven't changed the carpet in what feels like decades. It gives it kind of that retro nostalgic feeling that I kind of miss from a lot of modern movie theaters. And they got some cool posters on the wall. Everything's kind of dotted, movie themed. It's very centralized, and it seems like they have at least their style down pat. So for that, I'll give them some credit. So let's talk about the movie theater itself. The seats were comfortable enough, although it seemed like the heads of every single seat was sort of worn. Seems like they're using that sort of faux leather foam kind of thing going on with these seats. Obviously they're comfortable enough. I was never like shifting in my seat with how uncomfortable they were. But at the same time, I've been to other movie theaters where they're just full-on recliners and they're just better. So I guess that's something to consider. I was in theater 2, like I said before, and the space itself was fine enough. There were only 2 other couples in the movie theater with me. I saw it by myself, and luckily I didn't feel bothered. I didn't feel like, the space was a hindrance, even if there were more people there. It's easy enough to navigate, and I'm not like bumping around all the time into random shit because of how they're set up. So that's a plus. One thing I will note is that if you're there a little early when the lights are still on while the Maria Menounos videos are playing and you get to learn about movie trivia that is the easiest bullshit in the world, there was a light fixture that was sort of placed behind where a ceiling fan was, and so every time the ceiling fans would spin by it, it was like a flashing effect in the movie theater that was just smack right into my eye, and it was very hard for me to ignore. Thankfully it wasn't going on during the movie or even the previews, but it was kind of just something to note that was a little bit annoying to deal with, especially if you're someone like me who's always tired and just doesn't want any light in my face in any form. So more or less that was the actual movie theater experience itself. It was pretty decent. I never really have too many complaints with the Cinema Carousel's actual theater setup. The sound was good, the picture was good. Never was there like a technical issue. It was a pretty streamlined experience overall. I want to talk about the food itself because that is important when documenting the movie theater experience. If you decide to get food, even if a movie theater offers food, I feel like sometimes they only have candy or popcorn, but the Cinema Carousel within the last few years has kind of embraced having a dedicated meal service, which is kind of nice. I had never gotten food from there before this trip. I had always seen people get pizza. 90% of the time when I see people get food delivered to them in the movie is a pizza. So I figured, okay, well, I should get the pizza because it's obviously their most popular food item. So I ended up ordering a pepperoni pizza with a medium fountain drink of Dr. Pepper. The fountain drink was good. I feel like anytime I get a fountain drink from a movie theater, not just this one, but any in general, which is pretty rare because I try not to get drinks when I'm in a movie because I don't want to piss 2 times during a film, which ended up happening. It's always crisp. It always tastes good. It's always a good combination of the carbonation and the syrup flavor, and never did I feel like it got too watery or flat with the ice I put in it, so that was hitting really well. My main issue lies with the pizza and the pricing of said pizza. So I ordered the pepperoni pizza, like I said. It looked pretty appetizing. It looked pretty decent. I was hoping that I would have the pizza delivered to me right when the movie was starting so that I could have a snack to enjoy with the film. Unfortunately, it was delivered a little bit earlier than that. They gave it to me even before the preview started, so I didn't want to just sit there holding a pizza for it to get cold, so I just started eating it right away. And it was fairly lukewarm, kind of crappy pizza. Like, it was okay. It's hard to completely fuck up a pizza in my opinion, but when you've got this as a service and also the price to go along with it, the fountain drink and the pizza itself ended up being around $17, which $5 for the drink, like, that's to be expected. Movie theater prices are ridiculous. Whatever. I understand that that's the price of the drink. But for the pizza to be $11 and for it to come out smaller than what I would get for a Tombstone $5 frozen pizza at the grocery store is just a little bit underwhelming. I tasted the pizza and it was a little too doughy. The sauce and the cheese was a bit inert. The pepperonis were my favorite part of it. I do think that they did a good job with the pepperonis, but again, it's hard to completely fuck up a pizza, in my opinion. That being said, I was a little bit underwhelmed with the experience. If the price was a little bit cheaper, or if the pizza was even a little bit bigger, if they had decided to go for quantity over quality a little bit, I could maybe forgive it in a way, but I feel like getting the pizza was not entirely worth it for me as a theater patron who wanted to get dinner in a movie. And I know some of you are probably watching this thinking, oh, you know, what did you expect? It's a movie theater chain that is going to charge a shit ton with pizza. I understand that that's the case. I'm not fully naive about that fact. I'm just documenting my experience with it and the idea that if I'm paying this much money for this service and this food, I should get the equivalent in quality when it comes to a meal. So the most disappointing part about this experience was the food by far. I will say that the employees were always nice. They were always cordial. They did give me my pizza quickly, maybe a little too quickly, which was a bit disappointing, but it's not like I had to wait forever for the pizza, so I guess that's more preferable than not getting it until halfway through the movie. And I've never had a bad customer service experience in all the times that I've been to the Cinema Carousel. And thinking about that when it comes to grading this movie theater chain and experience, I do have to factor that in, and it does thankfully carry over into this last time that I was there for this video. So kudos to the staff. I appreciate them very much, and they do a great job there. Last thing I want to talk about is the bathrooms. This is just going to be a quick little anecdote. So the bathrooms themselves are pretty decent. There are at least 2 main bathrooms, one that's in the lobby area when you're leaving the movie theater towards the exit in the front. There's a men's and a women's bathroom there. That's pretty updated. It's fairly clean for the most part. Anytime I've seen a mess in there, I usually just assume that it had just been made. and they do a pretty decent job of making sure the toilet bowls and the urinals are, you know, fairly mess free. There is another bathroom that is in section 12 through 17 of the movie theater. It is a smaller one. It only has one stall for a sit-down toilet seat, and the last time I was in that specific stall, the latch wasn't latching quite right and the door would just keep opening. Luckily, I was the only one in there, because otherwise they'd see my dick and balls as I sit down on the toilet scrolling through Reddit. There was also a fair amount of ants on the floor, like just crawling around. It seemed like someone had brought food in maybe, and you know, I could maybe forgive it if it looked fresh, but it looked like it had been there for a while, and to have sort of an unsanitary bathroom experience is just less than stellar, so I'm sort of counting that in my experience overall, but maybe that's something that they fixed, you know, since the last time that happened to me. I don't know, but it was just sort of a crappy experience with that. I don't want to have to like drop a dinker while I have to worry about the door opening on me and some slack-jawed middle-aged man looking at me while I'm taking a shit. This experience overall was fun to do. I enjoyed making this video. I enjoyed going and documenting the things around this business and everything that it pertained to. I hope to do this again with another movie theater so I can make a similar video to this. But now it's time to get into the grade that I would give this movie theater. So taking everything into consideration, both past experiences and this last time going specifically for this video, I do enjoy this movie theater overall. It's the one I go to the most. It's closest to where I live. I have the Cinema Studio VIP membership, so I get to watch 3 movies every week without an extra cost. I just pay monthly. So that as a service right there is just an overall positive enough excuse for me to go and patronize this business on a very regular basis. I like the way that this is set up for the most part. It's fairly accessible. If you're someone who is handicapped, I don't think you have to worry too much about accessibility when it comes to the bathrooms, the theaters, or you know, just entering the building in the first place. There's no stairs or anything, so it's easy to navigate and fairly straightforward. Some of the sections kind of feel like they're shoved off to the side, a little bit of an afterthought after years of decline in those specific areas of the movie theater, but I guess they still do have their place as space filler, so you know, at least it doesn't feel like you're in a giant, vast, empty back rooms liminal space. The food itself was a little bit of a disappointment, but the overall actual theater experience was good. It's not the best movie theater that I've ever been to. Certainly if I continue making these types of videos, there are going to be other theaters that I think are of higher quality than this. But when it comes to a regular establishment that I frequent quite often, it does the job and it does it very well. Does it have its flaws? Yes, but I do think that the overall good qualities outweigh some of the little more shaky elements of this establishment. So that being said, I'm going to give Studio C's Cinema Carousel in Muskegon, Michigan on Old Grand Haven Road, I'm going to give it a B-. Thank you guys for checking this video out. This is a different type of thing that I wanted to do in place of having a regular podcast episode come out because Mac is on his honeymoon. He's busy smooching his gal. So I'm hoping that this as supplementary content will suffice and that you guys enjoyed this at least to some extent. I hope to make more of this type of video in the future, and I appreciate you guys checking this out. So have a good day and be nice in the movie theater. I'm watching.